What is good, YouTube? Warstu here with a video on one of my favorite franchises, Godzilla X Kong Supernova, aka the MonsterVerse. So, a Call of Duty new collaboration from the Call of Duty mobile game has confirmed Godzilla's new dorsal plates, looking like it's going to be purple. In fact, that color looks beautiful. We already knew he was going to be getting some sort of dorsal plate upgrade in terms of color because they've got to sell merchandise. But what is also more significant is Kong has his exosuit that a lot of people said were fake from the test screening information. I'm going to let you into a spoiler here. I've been covering the MonsterVerse since King of the Monsters. And when I hear stuff, generally the test screen information is 100% bang on. So we know the exosuit is literally on Kong. Kong has some sort of armor. So, yo, what is good? YouTube, Warstu here with a video on the MonsterVerse, aka Supernova, aka Godzilla X Kong 3. If you could, help the channel out by liking, hitting the hype button, subscribing, comment down below 50 different times with 50 different comments. Also, check us out on TikTok, Warstu, to see the beautiful face behind the beautiful voice, and check us out on Instagram. So, before you say this is not going to be canon, this is not going to be adjacency, do you remember a couple years ago when we got the cave painting in a Call of Duty collaboration? And that turned out to be true, turned out to be canon. Are we going to be getting another cave painting in this Call of Duty collaboration? It is looking very likely. It really is. And this just before CinemaCon, which is for cinema, and Legendary Pictures is going to be there under the head of Warner Bros. Because Warner Bros. Distributes them. Are we going to be getting a trailer next week? It could be likely they're going to be showing something off of this movie next week. As we know, Dune 3 comes out later this year. We've already got a trailer. I read the comment, lads, unlike some other creators. I read the comments. It's too early. We're not going to get a trailer till December. And I'm like, okay, wait a minute. Hold my white monster. Hold my white monster, please. December is when they dropped the trailer before the March, I think it was the April release back in 2023. But hang on a minute here. They've got a whole year to promote the movie. We were under a year out now. This is the last CinemaCon. Technically, they can market this movie at. There's gonna be something there. Warner Bros. Legendary will be showing something off at CinemaCon this coming week. Now, it's fantastic that this basically does unofficially confirm the exosuit is true. But as we know, the test screen information is basically 99% true. We already know this. People that are well respected in the community of the leaking-based rumor mill have confirmed it without actually saying anything. So I don't understand why people were so angry about this exosuit when Kong literally had a glove in the movie, the last movie, New Empire. So the dorsal plates are quite interesting because the dorsal plates are very pointy, just like they are in the Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong comic book, right? Very pointy, and if you put them side by side, right, they basically look the same. Is this hinting, right, that in Godzilla X Kong Supernova, that Godzilla's gonna have more pointy dorsal plates and it's gonna be purple? And going on the Twitter sphere, people are actually quite happy with this. Godzilla's design in the New Empire has the tips of the dorsal plates bending backwards. His dorsal plates for this Call of Duty collaboration look straighter and jagged, just like in 2014. Be very interesting. It's very interesting to see what the freaking hell this is actually teasing. But it does confirm the exosuit information is bang on. And to be fair, I really like the purple. Although this is just from a static image of a video game. I mean, the cave painting was canon. They did that for Shimo. You know, that was essentially Shimo. Well, that's essentially my interpretation of what the cave painting turned out to be, but that turned out to be true. So, very interesting how much this little Call of Duty collaboration actually confirms, and we've not had the collaboration yet. But it is worth saying, careful spoilers, that apparently in the most recent test screening, when it came to Space Godzilla, the actual antagonist, it was like a rainbow, a Super Saiyan rainbow. I really hope the fighting in this movie is more like an anime Super Saiyan fight. You know how we got in the most recent Sonic movie when the two Sonics were fighting? That almost looked like two Super Saiyans going at each other. That would be a more interesting way of doing it. So it's weird for this movie because there is so much information that's already out there that is basically true. So this collaboration, it just confirms that we already knew he was going to get different dorsal plates, different color for the toys. But the fact Kong has a suit on tells us and debunks the people, the TikTokers who I came across their TikToks and they said, no exosuit. I don't understand why people debunk test screen information. To me, it literally makes no sense, right? This is how we found out the leaks were true. And I told y'all, lads, the leaks were true about the exosuit. Because generally, how to debunk test screening information. If more than two people are saying the same thing about said test screening, and they were talking to people who were at said test screening, the information is most likely gonna be true. And to be honest, it does sound like the best Godzilla X Kong movie that we've predominantly had since 2014. You know, the original Godzilla movie in the MonsterVerse. But not only that, since King of the Monsters, which I still feel like is the best movie in the MonsterVerse. Although a lot of people disagree with me with that. And when I say King of the Monsters had more of a serious tone, people kind of kick back on that. So as we know, at the end of this movie, careful spoilers, Godzilla knocks out Space Godzilla, right? Essentially knocks him through a portal, allegedly in London, and transports him to a dead alien planet, being devoured by Space Godzilla's creator. It's interesting how the way it's described on the information is Godzilla defeats Space Godzilla. Kong's not there. But he's left stranded. He's left stranded. The Earth protect. I get it. You're going to say Mothra. You're going to say those other Titans. Yeah, sure, Kong's still there, but there's no actual Godzilla going to be left there. So I wonder at CinemaCon, are they going to tee up this is part 1 of part 2? Because if this creator of Space Godzilla is real, if this plot point is real, as we already know it's real, it would be part 1 of part 2, even if they don't call it that. So all these teasers about the moon, the signals from somewhere in space are technically true because they're fighting on an alien planet. So they are battling in space. But I'm still yet to figure out and get any information about this distress signal that was sent from space, and there's going to be some warning and Mothra is going to... I mean, I think some of the earlier leaks were basically fake, but it is interesting how this moon-based stuff, it's not really in the leaks, although, yes, they are going to fight on some alien dead planet, and Space Godzilla is going to have some curator, but because the whole Toho weren't going to let him use Space Godzilla, but now it literally looks like it's going to be the original Toho design of Space Godzilla, it kind of throws out a lot of this nonsense information. But either way, there is still much more to this movie to find out. And we are going to find out some information next week at CinemaCon in maybe Las Vegas, wherever it is in America. They're going to show something. Even if it's a 30-second sizzler reel to the audience, it will get out. But the fact that we have already had this collaboration confirms the exosuit is real. And they weren't trolling, but we already kind of known this, didn't we? And because the test screening, the VFX, the CGI wasn't finished, I don't believe there's not going to be any other Titans, okay? Reportedly, there's no Rodan, there's no Godzilla Jr., there's no Warstu, there's no Mothra. But with finished VFX, that would be seen. But it's interesting how it's the most positive reaction ever for a MonsterVerse movie, which is cool. Because the movie's a year out. This is not like a Supergirl scenario where they're on their 8th test screening and the movie comes out in 3 months. This movie comes out next March. We're in April. It's 11 months away. So even if they did 2 to 3 more test screenings, which they probably may do another 2, they're a year away. They're not test screening the movie 3 months out because their universe has no actual plan. The interesting thing is the MonsterVerse is more cohesive Then the whole DCU. Yeah, the DCU gets so much hype for no reason. Anyway, that's a tangent. So anyway, lads, like always, check us out on Instagram at Warstu. Check us out on Twitter, WarstuG. And we'll get you in another video very soon. Catch ya later.